My name is Gary Turner. I was drafted into the Army October 10th, 1967.
My name's Melvin Pence. I was a 3-year Army. Got in 1967, right after high school.
Okay, my full name is Robert officially, but I'm really Bob Githens. And my rank was, let's see, when I left was Spec 5, Specialist 5. We made light of it when we could, but at the same time, you were scared to death at the time because there was, you didn't know where anything was coming from. And we still had incursions into the base camp and rockets, sometimes 2 or 3 times a day. So it didn't really matter where you were. It was, you didn't know whether you were going to be blown away the next minute or not.
The way veterans were treated was the reason we built the memorial. There was indifference, disdain, contempt. There was this idea that you were either stupid or a loser or you were too dumb to get out of it. There was anything but honor and recognition.
We were treated like crap once we got off the plane.
A lot of guys were spit on and had things thrown at them.
When I first came back from Vietnam, I got out off the plane and everything in California and went through the checkout, the whole 9 yards of getting out of the area. When I left the Oakland Army Air Terminal, I stepped outside the gate, and the first thing that happened, I got in a fight with 4 hippies. Called me baby killer and all this crap. Well, it's a good thing there was a police officer standing there when he did, because he arrested all 4 of them, and he told me, he said, it's a good thing this man didn't get a hold of all of you, he said, because he would have killed every one of you. And I probably would have. Never even thought twice about it. I mean, that was 18 hours after I'd left the foxhole. So, you know, I probably would have killed every one of them. Now I thank God I didn't.
There were no homecoming parades or anything else, but you know, I was featured in my hometown paper, my opinion on what was going on with the war. But the fact is, I brought a 13-month-old infant with me, so that made a difference. How I got treated in the airports, how I got treated in immigration, how I got treated when I got home. You know, we actually had more problems with people wanting stories, and the positive publicity was really a pain. It was almost too much. Nobody would get, you know, privacy was a little hard to find.
The irony of it is that I was a bad person when I was in the service, because in Vietnam I fell in love with a Vietnamese who had 2 children. And I tried to marry her, well, I extended numerous times until they found out why I was extending. They said, you can't do that, you're crazy. So I had to have counseling so that I wouldn't do that crazy stuff. And I insisted I still wanted to get married, so they said, you have to go home. So they sent me back home, and I went back 6 months later as a civilian. And I don't remember whether I got married the first year or not. Anyway, I didn't get all the paperwork done, so the next year I went back again and finally got all the paperwork done and brought my wife and 2 children back over. And I grew up in a small town not far from here, and I thought that's a good place to raise a family. And I got a teaching job there and basically got booed out of town. Friends that I went to high school with, friends that I went to school with, told me to get those effing gooks out of town. So after about a year, I moved back to Muncie because Muncie's more liberal. So it wasn't good.
Actually, initially, there was a lot of controversy about the National Memorial. First reports we got in Muncie were negative. They said everybody else got towering white memorials and we got a black rock and a hole in the ground for Vietnam. But anyhow, I can remember when I was there, when we were there, going back at 1 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, it was like a magnet. It was amazing. There was just an attraction to that memorial. There was anything, unlike anything that we had seen before or since.
I went to the Vietnam Memorial in D.C. and it was, when I first got out there, I thought, I hate this thing. Here we go, it's a black hole in the ground. I didn't even want to go. My wife kept egging me on, said she thought it'd be the best for me. So we finally went. When we got out there, I still didn't want to see it. I got clear up beside it. And just as soon as I walked around the end of that thing, I mean, it reached out and grabbed me like a brother reached out and grabbed you. And I stayed right there with it. We stayed there for, I don't remember how many hours, left and turned around and come back again. And we was back there 3 times that day. And it, when you see the reflection of it and you see yourself in that, it puts you right in it.
Oh, it was a moving experience, it really was. At that time, there was a controversy going on. You know, there was a lot of people saying that they didn't like it because it looked like a big gash in the ground, well, I suppose I could see their point in a way, but I think a lot of minds has been changed now. I went back one more time a year later with my mother and an aunt and an uncle, and it still had the same feeling.
My first visit to the wall was really an immensely emotional experience, and emotions were not something that I was really used to feeling at the time. But it was very, very, it was just like this pall of sadness that just, I mean, it was such a sobering place so quickly. And it was overpowering at first. And I didn't even try and find anybody's name. I have 6 people on the wall from my high school class of 139 people. And I have over 30 people from my OCS class. But the first time was immensely, I don't know, immensely sad. I mean, it's just like dropping down into a grave.
I cried. Actually, I cried the last time I talked about it. But it was like revisiting the guys that I knew there, the people I knew there that didn't come back.
The American people are pretty neat folks. Their communities are something they care about, and they want their communities to reflect their lives and their country. The Vietnam Veterans Memorials all across the country are just one manifestation of that.
Well, I suspect that following the building of the memorial, the National Memorial in D.C., that there were a number of towns that thought, you know, we lost these people, or a county, we lost these members of our community, and wanting to have something there in their home area, among people that knew them. I think it's a wonderful thing to do.
I do believe that the design of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial in Washington, D.C. set the standard for memorial design, not only for Vietnam Veterans Memorials, but for memorials in general all around the world.
I think that when people finally saw the Washington Memorial, the Vietnam Memorial, it inspired them to come back to their own communities. And there came a time when the nation had healed to the point where Vietnam veterans began to get the respect they deserved. And so there was a period when having a local Vietnam Veterans Memorial was a major event in a lot of communities.
Because it's not a celebration. It's not even about whether we won or lost or who we is necessarily. It's about people, and it's about veterans. It's about people that gave their lives for this country.
Yeah, Vietnam Veterans of Delaware County was strictly a grassroots organization. July of 1981, they had a meeting at Central High School cafeteria, I believe it was, but they were wanting to gauge the level of interest of Vietnam veteran-only organization, because a lot of guys that tried to join the Legion, VFW, AMVETS, that kind of thing, when they first came home, and especially during the war, a lot of them were faced with rejection. We weren't considered in the same league, evidently, as WW2 and that kind of thing. The official title is the Vietnam Veterans Memorial for Delaware County. Started out with the wall plaque that was very simple, very basic, and we knew we wanted to do more than that. And after we came back from Washington, D.C., we decided that, yeah, it was time to get started.
I was president of the organization when we built this memorial.
I was secretary, a board member as time went along.
Yeah, as chairman of the committee. Obviously, it wasn't a one-man band or something. We had a lot of help with all these events, but I kind of have a niche there as an overview on everything. I was involved in the design. The two greatest sources of funds for the $50,000 required, $15,000 for the foundation, the sidewalks, the retaining walls, and $35,000 for the Black Granite Memorial. $10,000 from Ball Foundation, of course, major contribution, but there was $11,000 plus that was raised by an idea from one of our Vietnam veteran members that was a supervisor at Pepsi-Cola. In about 4 months or less, we raised more than $11,000 5 and 10 cent bottle deposits. I was one of the original co-designers. I made the final patterns of everything. But they did invite me to go to the factory in Barre, Vermont, and trace my full-size, life-size patterns onto the face of the stencils, they call it. We integrated the 3 silhouettes of the fighting men. The tower had the names, so we felt like it was complete, with those images.
There was a national directory, goes along with the one in D.C. I went through the whole book, just page for page, name for name. I don't want to leave any stones unturned. I got a little list compiled, so they took it and added a few more names to it. It seemed like I'd come up with about 45 names, and now we got, 57?
Vietnam Veterans Memorial for Delaware County, there are 57 names.
Gary and I and Bob Walburn and a few others, I can't say the names right now, but we did all the research on all these names, whether they fit the criteria or not. We probably had 300 names to start with, but there was a lot of it that was not qualified. We had one individual that died on an operating table in Mexico, and they said he was in Vietnam. Well, no, he wasn't. So there's just things like that, and then also they had to, if they died after they came back home, then it had to be related directly to the wounds that they received over there. The thing was kept, and here in Delaware County, it was hid for a while before we got the foundation and everything ready. Well, when we finally got the foundation ready, the people with the cranes and everything came in, and they set the memorial right here on the foundation. Well, I kept my motorhome here, and I stayed right with this thing day and night for 4 days. Kept it covered up with tarps so nobody could see what it looked like until we opened it up for dedication.
There was 20 tons of black granite. We're pretty successful at keeping it under cover, covered up until the day of of the service and the unveiling. That was on November the 11th, Veterans Day. 1986 was a dedication, and it was a big event. And the thing was, we located more than 50 of the 57 families after 20 years, and they were the focus. You know, their loved ones were killed, and the families were the focus.
Every year, Gary and I do the Memorial and Veterans Day services here, take care of this thing like it was our own child.
Every Memorial Day, every Veterans Day, we have a service, 100 to 150 people, and so the legacy and the memorialization continues, and that's very important to us. It didn't end with the dedication in 1986. Some people have called it a war memorial. It's not a war memorial at all. We make a distinction in this. It's a veterans memorial because we don't believe in glorifying war. There's nothing glorious about war. So we strongly object to calling it, you know, the Vietnam War Memorial. It's not a war memorial. These people on our memorial were, you know, our fellow citizens, you know. We just felt like, for our guys, I mean, you know, like all the other communities, we want to have something just for them. Naturally, we can appreciate, you know, the National Memorial, but it's a community thing, you know. Members of our community were killed in that war. So, yeah, we had to have a local memorial.
I think it means a lot to me, and I also feel too it should mean a lot to the community. It's of course, they would have to be the ones to speak for themselves, but I think it means a lot to me, and it should mean a lot to them.
Well, what it means to me and what it means to the community may be two different things. For a long time, we had trouble with them vandalizing it. They'd spray paint it, they'd write on it, do all kinds of stuff to it. Thanks to the park department and Gary, we came up with some stuff to keep it clean with. And to me, it's part of my life. It means a lot to me to be able to honor these men from Delaware County here.
It tells us that we're not forgotten, but it's really more for families. You know, people who were related to the people on that marker, and people from this community need to be remembered, whether the war was right, wrong, or otherwise. They were serving their country, they were doing what they thought was right at the time, and those folks need remembered.
The main purpose of it is just on the memorial itself, let no one forget. But the thing is, the lives is a part that can never be replaced. And people don't realize, but I know families today that their sons, you know, or their brothers were killed over there. And I can tell you, after almost 50 years in some cases, that things are totally different for that family. But I've just seen cases where a brother graduated from high school, joined the Marine Corps in 1967, got killed a month after arriving in Vietnam, 1967. The mother, the two daughters, and the father only lived 5 years after that, and possibly his son being killed had something to do with his father dying young 5 years later. And you multiply that by tens of thousands of people. I always say it's not only lives, you know, lost, taken, terminated, it's lives forever changed. War changes a lot of people's lives, and especially the ones that are severely wounded and the ones that are killed.